What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of We Run This. I am Chris Illuminati. He is Nick Domingo. Nick, what's up?
Man, just getting through life, dude. Having soup with chicken bones in it and shit. You know?
That's right. You just had a chicken bone incident. You almost choked on a chicken bone.
Yeah, man. I mean, I was telling you, like, you know, what is soups that you get at like a Whole Foods? You put it in a little pint, heat it up. I'm like all excited, rushing in between to try and get on the podcast. You know, dump it into a bowl to eat, and the first bite has this giant like chicken bone in it. I'm thinking, all right, like I fucking can't eat the rest of this now. Like my mind is just thinking every piece of chicken I eat is gonna have this bone. I'm grossed out. I had like 3 noodles and I'm starving. So that's how my day's actually going.
Isn't it crazy that like we could run all these miles, but we might get taken out by a chicken bone?
Yeah, could you imagine? They could make it. He choked literally on a chicken bone.
Yeah, like fucking, inside.
That is how I would go. Not on wood.
Inside a soup, like yeah. I mean, I always think like, am I gonna like, you know, somebody gonna find me in the woods somewhere? Like, am I gonna pass out? Am I gonna get eaten by a bear? Or like, it's like no, I'm gonna fucking choke on a chicken bone from a soup that I bought at a convenience store.
Yeah, or like in my luck, will be like, oh, he choked on one of the 3 marshmallows he stuffed in his mouth after running because that's what he does. Like fucking stupid.
You know, it's funny you bring that up because a friend of mine, speaking of soup, he did a run. I want to say it was the Broad Street Run in Philly. So they do it like in November. It was really cold. He got done and they gave him a container of bone broth to drink. And he was like, it was the greatest thing in my life.
What?
It was just soup. It was just like soup. It was just the broth of soup. And he was like, it was so amazing.
Hey, I mean, I hope that it helped with his recovery. And as long as there were no chicken bones in it, dude.
Like, no, it's just the broth.
Yeah, that's the way to go.
No one's choking on a bone. Can you imagine finishing a marathon and then choking on a chicken bone right past the finish line?
No, but speaking of like interesting things when you're running, it's actually a pretty good segue into Nick Symmonds, our guest today, 2-time Olympian, this close to being a 3-time Olympian. The dude is like all time. The guy has a YouTube channel, his Instagram and social media has just been blowing up, where he kind of transitioned from a runner to an entrepreneur and YouTube content creator. And so he's done some crazy ass shit. I know you actually were the one who found him and, you know, racing a go-kart, right?
Yeah, so I did one of his videos where he raced against a go-kart, and I'll kind of ruin it for you. He won.
Spoiler alert.
There was 2 different ones though. There was one where he ran a lap and then the go-kart did a lap and see who did it faster. But then he did one where he actually raced the go-kart 4 times around. And like, yeah, he won. So that's kind of how I got in contact with him. But it's funny that we're talking about like food after, before, during. I mean, he's also the creator of Run Gum, which was a gum that he came up with just for him to replace energy drinks while he was running and something to chew on. And actually one of his coaches told him to bring it to market, and now it's available in Walmart and stuff. So there's a guy who took a different scenario, not so much choking on a chicken bone, but something else that you would kind of put in your mouth on purpose and kind of turn it into a cool little business. Yeah,
super rad story. It's so cool to see how he's gone, you know, from this ambitious 13-year-old kid to a 21-year-old Olympian, to being the number 1 or 2, you know, in his specific sport in the world and in the country, to now what he's done afterwards. And just see, it's inspiring to see what he's been able to do at, you know, he's 37 years old, so he's about my age. So take a listen, guys. Nick Symmonds, 2-time Olympian, founder of Run Gum, and a content creator that, if you check out his YouTube, has some pretty cool shit going on.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping when he kind of showed us the YouTube board, I was kind of hoping he stayed on it a little bit longer, but I couldn't read anything.
I know. I wanted to steal some of those ideas.
Yeah, his upcoming ideas, because we could totally do it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, whatever an Olympian has planned, you and I could bang it out easily.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? We can't even eat soup.
No, I fail at eating soup. This guy's like, I'm running a 3:56 peak mile time. I'm like, I don't even know how to take a soup up to my mouth.
Ugh, we're sad. Here's Nick Symmonds.
Where we're going to? Under the Vegas, which is good.
We're back, everybody, and we are here with two-time Olympian Nick Symmonds. What's up, my friend?
How you doing? Thanks for the intro.
Let me ask this. Being an Olympian once is awesome. Being able to say two-time Olympian.
Yeah.
Does it, like, so you were once, and then you became two. How did it feel like to go, okay, now I'm two?
I would say from a performance standpoint, it feels a lot better because I did so much better at the second one. But saying, I don't run around typically when I'm introducing myself in front of an audience, I would say two-time Olympian. I do sometimes do that on YouTube, but it actually stings a little bit because I was 1 week away from being a three-time Olympian, and it still hurts. I got injured right before the 2016 Olympic trials. I was in phenomenal shape. I'm maybe I'm arrogant here, but I'm sure I would have made the team. So I guess, 1, 2, 3, it's all a little different. I'm just glad I always say I count my blessings that I made it in 2008 onto the Beijing team because I almost didn't make it that day.
The one that got away, man. The one.
Yeah, it is.
Always, right?
That's how you know. That's how you know you're an elite athlete. You've been an Olympian twice, and you're like, but that one time that I wasn't.
So true, man. I tell you what, I know Olympic gold medalists that look back on their career with frustration because they didn't get the world record. It's like an elite athlete is never happy. For maybe 1 hour after they finish, and then they're already thinking about how they can perform better.
Right? It's like Tom Brady. He's got 6 titles, the GOAT, and he's like, man, that loss to Nick Foles in the fucking Super Bowl, like that one stings. It's like, dude, you got 6. Like, you're doing okay. But hey, it's a good month.
Yeah.
So
go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say, how long do you kind of dwell on that, though?
Well, in the moment, you dwell on it for weeks or months or years even. Like, I couldn't watch the 2012 Olympic final, the best race I ever ran in my life, the fastest I ever ran. I couldn't watch it for years. I took 5th in the Olympic final, and I was so close to winning a medal. But, even though it was my best performance ever at the highest stage of track and field, it stung so bad to watch it because I didn't get my medal. So like it took some perspective. I would say now I'm 37. I'm 3 or 4 years removed from my career. Like, none of that. We can talk about it all. Like, it almost feels like that person that ran those races, that had that career, that is a different person. I look back and I'm like, what was that kid's problem? Like, he was really pissed off. He really wanted to kick people's butt on the track. Like, it's just such a different mindset from where I'm at today.
So, how do you recover from something? I obviously don't want to dwell on it too much, but, a lot of successful people who have sort of what you just said, that optimistic mentality of, all right, it's in the past, I've grown so much. But a lot of the successful people say growth comes from failure. So for you not to make that, how can you look back on it now, 4 or 5 years after it happened and say, there's a lot of lessons that I learned from that to get to where I am now?
Well, especially when, you're translating the skills that you've learned from one career and then pivoting and trying to carry some of those skills into another career. So for example, my career that was a very successful running career came crashing to an end in 2017, making hundreds of thousands of dollars running to zero in literally 1 month, right? Like, that's hard. But I sat down and I said, well, I must have learned some skills along the way other than, running circles that could translate into my next career. Unfortunately, I'd started a business. So I thought about, the perseverance that I've had as a runner, the nothing can stop me. Even when the chips are down, I will rally. I will consult with experts. I will, do whatever it takes to be successful. And I kind of tried to parlay those same skills, that grit, into being an entrepreneur, which of course you have to have those skills to be a successful entrepreneur. So yeah, I would say that just being, as an athlete, you get kicked so many times, like some figuratively, some literally. As a runner, it's just such a roller coaster of emotions. One day you crush a workout, and I remember looking in the mirror just thinking, I am so damn fit. I could race anyone on planet Earth right now and I'd kick the shit out of them. Like, that was the mentality I had. And other days I'd have a bad workout or I was injured and I was literally clinically depressed. There were months at a time where I was suicidal. I was so sad. So you ride that roller coaster as an athlete. Then when you get to business, everything seems so easy. and it's not. But from an emotional standpoint, it's just not nearly as bad as the emotional roller coaster that I was on as an athlete. And I would say when you talk to most entrepreneurs, they say one of the hardest things about business is the emotional roller coaster. And I'm like, man, this is nothing. I've been on this thing. I've been on this thing since I was 13 years old. Bring it on.
Do you find that that kind of got you ready for being an entrepreneur? Because especially with what you do, track and field, like really the only person you can blame is you.
Yes.
And when you're an entrepreneur, the only person you can blame if you're the head of the company is you.
Yeah. And I think that there's so much truth behind that. And one of the reasons why I chose running, you know, when I was a kid, I played every team sport. I played basketball, baseball, ice hockey, soccer, you name it. And I hated it because I didn't like being part of a team. I wanted to stand on that line and know that success or failure rested on my shoulders. I loved that pressure. I loved that if I worked harder, my hard work would pay me dividends. There was no bench time in running. Everyone got the same opportunity. And those that hustled, those that worked hard would thrive. It's the same thing in entrepreneurial business. You know, the harder I work, the more it helps me and my family and my, you know, my posse here. And I love that, man. I just think that there's so much correlation between what makes a great runner and what makes a great entrepreneur.
So when you know, going back to your Olympic, your 2 times being there, I don't even know you can put into words. I mean, it won't do it justice unless we're like there with you. But talk about that feeling, representing your country, the chills you had, not even like before a race, because I'm sure that was all anxiety plus adrenaline, but just being there for like the opening ceremony, looking around, being surrounded by all these great athletes, not only from the US, but all around the world. And just kind of talk about that moment and what it actually feels like for someone who clearly I will never have that opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's kind of surreal, right? It almost feels like an out-of-body experience. You've watched, I mean, I was 24 when I went to my first Olympic Games, and you watch these opening ceremonies and you daydream about what it must be like to be an Olympian. And then all of a sudden, you know, a decade later, you're there and you're looking around and you're like, I cannot believe this is actually happening. But the work that you've done over those 10 years to get there is in the back of your mind. And you're saying to yourself, I owe it to myself to bring my focus, you know, on par with the momentous occasion that this is. And so as you're out there sweating in your suit and standing and shaking hands with the president and taking pictures with LeBron James, in the back of your mind, you're like, this is not where I need to be right now. I need to be in my bed resting. I have the biggest competition of my life in a few days. So, you know, the opening ceremonies, it's tough. It's actually a reason why a good percentage of athletes skip the opening ceremonies. And then that first day when you walk out onto the playing field, onto the track and go to compete, it is the most nerve-wracking moment ever. And I remember talking to my sports psychologist before. I said, how am I going to deal with the pressure? You know, billions of people watching. He goes, put your head down, look at the track, and remember that that track is 400 meters around. It's made of rubber. It's just like every other track you've ever been on, and you've spent the majority of your adult life on these tracks. Like, you can't mess it up. And I was like, that's pretty true. So I did. I just kept my head down. I just tried to ignore everything and just tried to let my body do what I had trained it to do.
I mean, I'm sure you had a great therapist, but I want to feel like that he ripped off Hoosiers right there. Isn't that the line from Hoosiers?
Maybe
like
he did. Yeah.
That basketball net is the same as the basketball net in our gym. Remember, he measures it.
And you could apply it to any sport because it's all standardized, but it's so true. Just get out of your own head, no matter what the competition is. Like, you have trained for however long, months, years, or decades in some cases. Just stop worrying about everything that's outside the playing field and just make it real simple.
I mean, so walk us through how, so you're chasing these adrenaline rushes as a runner. How does the adrenaline rush of being an entrepreneur equal to that? Like, is it just as good, or?
It's different, right? Like, in running, you get this dopamine hit almost every single day. And it's like, I'm not talking about like the idea of like, you know, hitting a goal and then, yeah, I feel good. I'm talking about literally as you run, like, you're getting endorphins. Like, you are constantly on this high when you're performing well. And it's daily. I mean, sometimes it's twice a day because you're working out twice a day. And then you have a great race and this feeling of euphoria, or you set a PR. I still think there's no better feeling in the world than setting a new personal best. It's not quite the same with entrepreneurial business. It's a little more of a grind. And, you know, the highs aren't quite as in your face, but there will be moments where, you know, I remember when Walmart called and said, hey, we're bringing you in nationwide. That felt almost identical to running a PR. It's like 2, 3, 4 years in the making for that moment. And I knew that my life would be changed forever in that moment. It's kind of it's a rush, but it's an anticipatory rush. You know, some people say they hate checking email. I check my email like a monster because I know there's all these little treats waiting in me. There's some shit in there too, but every morning I wake up and I go to check my email. I'm so excited in the morning because I have absolutely no idea like what cool things could be waiting. Maybe it's a brand collaboration. I remember getting an email from Gymshark saying they wanted to work with me. That was incredible, you know, or an email from a buyer saying we're going to bring you in. I plant all these little seeds and hope that one day they blossom. And when they do blossom, you know, as an entrepreneur, that's the best feeling.
That's so cool. I can definitely relate as someone who's gone down that road myself. It can be discouraging looking at your email sometimes and be like, oh, nothing's there. But
yeah, some of them suck too.
Yeah, exactly. Or when you hear crickets, but you know, when you open it, you do get that excitement. You just kind of have that positive attitude. Like you said, it is very similar to running and getting that PR. Now, obviously, the business that you've got, I think, on your hat and right behind you is Run Gum.
Yeah.
And, you know, as someone who I remember talking to my old roommate in college, he and I would always go for runs after class, and he would always run with gum in his mouth. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? You know? And then obviously now it got to a point to where I literally 2 days ago told my fiance, I was like, yo, do you have any gum? Because I'm gonna go for a run. I've always had it in my mouth now while I've been running. So where did the idea come from to get into that? And why did you think that was something that runners needed or that was necessary?
Well, it's funny. I actually created it for myself. This is a product born from necessity. I was sponsored by a couple energy drink companies, and I would drink the energy drink. And from an energy and cognitive standpoint, I'm like, I am ready to crush this workout or this race. But then I'd think about my stomach and it'd kind of be gurgling a little bit. And I'd be like, oh, I don't feel great. That's a lot of sugar. That's a lot of carbonation. That's a lot of acidity. And so I would have to decide, do I want to feel this huge surge of energy with indigestion or no indigestion, but I feel a little groggy, you know? And so I just thought, this is stupid. There's no reason I should have to choose between these two. I had studied biochemistry in college, and I knew that the energy blend in my favorite energy drink could be absorbed sublingually. So caffeine, taurine, B vitamins, that's the magic blend. I needed to figure out a way to get it to the lining of my gums. And, you know, we looked at tinctures, we looked at lozenges, we looked at all kinds of different ways to do that. Gum is the perfect delivery vehicle because it's easy to manufacture. It tastes great. It's highly portable. It's shelf stable. It just ticks all the boxes. And I probably would say, you know, I was looking for these things, and I you know, we're all familiar with Nicorette, one of the most famous functional chewing gums on the market. And I was just like, dang, that makes too much sense. So I found a contract manufacturer that could make it to my specs. And then I was just using it every day at practice and when I raced, and everybody's asking me for it. Like, they're not just asking me, they're like begging me for it. And my coach, who had a business background, he's like, dude, you got to bring this to market. I'm like, well, I'm so focused on my running career. There's no way, I don't have time or energy. He's like, I will help you do this. Let's do this 50-50. And his name's Sam LaPre. He's a co-founder, my best friend. And we decided we had to bring this to market in 2014. And then, you know, the last few years, it's just been kind of a, you know, crazy ride with Target and Walmart, Amazon, everybody else.
Well, I mean, you touched on something right there that people don't really think about when they're trying to come up with products, or everyone's trying to do like the next big thing. Actually, jokingly, Nick and I were recording another podcast, and I just came up with an idea for a bar stool that goes in the middle of your shower. So you don't have to like, get up, you don't have to sit down, so you can just sit down and do it. But
do you have a beer holder for my shower
thank
beer?
you. Yes, it does. It does. See, Nick, it's a $1 billion idea. I gotta do it.
You sold me with the beer holder.
Yeah, I gotta go with this. So, but what I was gonna say is, you were solving your own problem, and that's what great products do. They solve a problem. Yours was just you were solving your own.
Yeah.
Let me end that. Hold on. I don't know. Did you guys hear my phone ring? Oh, you didn't? Oh, cool. All right, good. My phone just started like going off. So you're solving a problem you're solving your own problem, and you didn't realize that so many other people had this problem.
I think there's two ways. One thing I'll just say, yes, I was solving a problem. We came up with a really cool, innovative product. I think too often people worry about the idea and not enough about the execution. If you ask me, Nick, what's more important, the idea or the execution? I would say the idea is maybe 5%. It's probably more like 1%, and the execution's 99. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to have an innovative idea. It helps, especially if it's a really cool product that solves a problem. But I know the majority of the successful entrepreneurs I know, they didn't even like come up with a unique idea. They're just damn good at running a business. I would say I'm actually not very good at the operations or the day-to-day stuff, but I'm smart enough to recognize that I'm not that good at it, and I hire great people to help me out with it. But I think Run Gum is a success story because it is an innovative product. It does solve a problem, but we have executed on our business plan, and that's where our true success comes from.
You know what's funny you said there, though, is earlier you're talking about running, and you were like, I hated playing team sports because I wanted all to rest on my shoulders.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about your business, you're like, I recognize I'm not smart enough or like good enough at this certain thing, but there are people who are better positioned for that. And you're like, I hire those guys or girls to do that job. So it's kind of funny how you like, as an athlete, as an elite Olympic athlete, you were like, it's me. But in business, you're like, dude, I need a team.
The way I would say how I feel about that now is I'm not an athlete on the team. I'm the coach, right? Exactly. So it still rests on my shoulders, and I still love that. I like being in the trenches with them, but I like building out the team.
So one of the reasons that we wanted to have you on, besides the fact that you're an amazing elite runner, is I'm fascinated with your YouTube channel.
Thanks.
Especially because you just race. Well, I mean, so I wrote about on the website where you raced a go-kart.
Yeah,
which I thought was
a fun one.
Which I thought was hilarious. But how you really launched the YouTube channel, or what got you big, was you raced against people on the street. And if they could beat you,
they get the cash.
$100. Now let me ask a question. Did you only go with $100 that day?
No. When I do any of these videos, I'm walking around with like $1,000 in cash.
Just want to make sure. I don't want, like, did you think you're only gonna get me?
No. I hope someone doesn't come with a gun and rob me the next time I do this. But
I think you're okay. You could outrun him.
Yeah, maybe some of these kids are really fast, right? But I set a budget somewhere between $500 and $1,000, and like I pull the cash out of the bank, and I'm like, I need to be prepared to lose every one of these $100 bills. Like I'm gonna fight my ass off to make sure I don't. Like I go hard in my races to make sure I don't lose. But I'm prepared to lose $1,000 if I have to make a great YouTube video. And if you wanna, and there's a million ways to get big on YouTube. In my particular genre, which is fitness challenge based, having a prize like that on the line, it really, really helps. I mean, Mr. Beast is the king of YouTube for a reason. He's created this whole genre, and it's one of the reasons why challenge videos do so well right now. Whereas he's offering islands and $1 million suitcases, I offer $100. But the cool thing is that I get to participate. A lot of times Mr. Beast is hosting a lot of these. He's maybe not participating. Half the fun for me is the challenge. It is participation in the videos.
So I don't know if you're familiar, the Atlanta Braves have got that like Flash dude who has people start. Like, do you think you can beat that guy if he were to challenge you right now?
No way. Absolutely not. The funny thing is I think I'm a versatile athlete, especially maybe more so now than when I was training just to run the 800. I can sprint a good 100, but I could still go out and run a pretty solid 10K. And that's kind of what is fun for me, is that I challenge people at all distances. If you go onto my YouTube channel, you can see me racing everything from 100. I don't know if we've done a 10K yet, but all the way up to 5K for sure. And so it's a challenge for me to be able to do that in, big range, but I'm not great at anything anymore. Even at the 800, I'd get my butt kicked. We're going to do an all out mile tomorrow for the YouTube channel. And I'll be lucky to break 5 minutes, which is good running, but it's not the 3:56 kind of running I used to do. So I think you have to, I have to swallow a little bit of humble pie and realize that I'm 37 years old and I'm not a 24-year-old, training to be the world's best. But two, I have to just get excited that I can still get out there and mix it up with the kids, right?
If I ran a 5-minute mile, dude, I would be stoked. Like, I would.
But you
lose
know
my
what's so
mind.
funny? Online, I get all this, these haters that are like, "This is so sad to see somebody who ran so well fall so far." I'm like, fuck. Excuse me, I can't say that. I'm
Yes,
like,
you can.
forget you. Okay. I'm like, forget you. I'm a 37-year-old who can still get out there and mix it up with the kids. I feel so good about that. I hope I'm a 75-year-old who still goes out there and waddles a 10-minute mile. Like, that's my goal in life. It's not to, just like hang on to the past.
Have you come across anybody in the competitions where you're like, dude, do you actually race? Like, have you come across any like real talented runners?
Yeah. Well, we go out, and I always say anyone is invited to my events. You, from like a 6-year-old to a 90-year-old, you could be an elite world-class runner or, brand new runner. Anyone's invited to my events. But when you open it up like that, anyone can show up. We've had a lot of like really talented NCAA athletes show up. Like last year in the 100, the Pac-12 champion in the decathlon showed up and just lit everybody up. And I'm like, that is so awesome, And then I go to give him his $100 and he's like, well, I can't take it because of the NCAA. And then I get to just rail against how stupid and corrupt the NCAA is. So that's the other thing, I do a lot of commentating of my own videos. Mm-hmm. And everyone's like, oh, we love the way you commentate your videos. You should go commentate for NBC. I've done that. It's horrible. They muzzle what you're able to say. And so when I was doing the commentating, I'd say something off color and they're like, well, you can't really say that. I'm like, well, why did you bring me here? Like, I thought you wanted the dirt. I thought you wanted the behind the scenes info. On my YouTube channel, I answer to literally nobody. I literally do whatever I want. I can say whatever I want. And I just love that freedom.
So if Chris and I were to go out right now and challenge someone to a race, not you, because I don't mark myself even on my best day to run a sub-5 to beat you.
Yeah.
What are some quick tips you give for us to run the best possible time?
Well, you probably should have been training going into it, right? Like, that's going to be your best ace in the hole, is like a few years worth of training.
Well, Nick, here's the thing. We do train. We host a podcast. That's how
we
train.
All right, you're set. You're set.
We're good. But go ahead.
Depending on the distance, if it's a sprint, if you can talk your competition into letting you say go, you just bought yourself a quarter-second head start, right? Because that's the average reaction time. So, like, if you see some of my Race Me for $100 videos, like, there's a little bit of a gimmick there, which are a little bit of a like cheat, where I say, all right, but I get to say go. Like, my money, my rules. If you want to compete for it, that's the way it is.
I love the scheme. Scheming.
If it's going to be a 40-yard dash or a 100-yard dash, like, that's your best bet to like get a little advantage. If it's a distance race, if you can just sit on their shoulder, this is how I made all my money in track and field, how I won all my races. I hated leading. I almost never led. The only time I wanted to lead was down the home stretch for the final lap. Sit and kick. Sit and kick. It is the easiest way to win a race, in my opinion.
I noticed you were doing that against the go-kart.
Yeah, I sat on the go-kart shoulder and then whipped around it.
Yeah.
That was also because I didn't want to get run over by the go-kart.
Yes, that is also that was a big thing I was worried about. Like, they were going to clip your leg or like kind of get you in the ankle.
I talk about my business partner, Sam. I had his daughter, Macy, driving because I knew she wouldn't hit me. His other daughter, Kamala, she might have run me over to win. So
purposely go after you.
Yeah, I picked the right daughter.
So you don't just do running videos. You do other challenges. And your most recent one was you did 300 push-ups a day for 30 days.
Can't you tell?
Yeah. How was that?
Sucked. Horrible. So my channel is definitely has a lot of running in it. I call my channel Fun with Fitness. So it's got to be fun. It's got to be fitness related. Now, I love running. I think it's fun, so I lean back on that a lot. But, I love lifting. I love all kinds of fitness challenges. So I did, I rode a 100-mile bike ride with zero training, essentially. And that was a fun video. And then I did the 300 push-ups one. I like to try different things. The push-up video I knew would do well because it's a very like clickbaity title and thumbnail, but it was a horrible challenge. Like, it's like the worst way to do a challenge.
What didn't you like about it? Boring? What was it?
It's monotonous, which is kind of hard, from a mental standpoint. But physically, I'm all about kind of building, right? Like running taught me that today's strong is tomorrow's weak. And when you're doing a challenge like 300 push-ups, you never change the challenge. Like each day is the same. And you're not like seeing these massive KPIs, key performance indicators, where when I go lift, maybe today I can only bench 225, but in a month from now, or in a couple days, 2 weeks from now, I can bench 235. And you need, as an athlete, you need those KPIs to give you that positive feedback loop that what I'm doing is working. I should keep doing this and see how far I can go. With the 300 push-up challenge, you never get that. You're just like, can I mentally slog through another 300 push-ups today?
Would you ever, if you had to do it again, I mean, obviously, like it's 900 push-ups, right? So
9,000, yeah.
Or 9,000. My math is clearly, I'm a writer, dude. I'm a writer. So you're doing 9,000 in the 30 days. So would you ever say, I'm going to do 1 week 1,000, and then the next week, work my way to 2,500, and then the next week go up to, like, would you do it incrementally like that, so you get the total, but you get what you're saying, like those KPIs where you're pushing yourself to work towards something, so it's not as monotonous?
I think a more fun one, I don't know that this would do as well on YouTube, but for me personally, what I would find more fun is how much weight can I load on my back and still execute a perfect push-up. So can I put a 45-pound plate on my back and do a perfect push-up? Yes. Okay. My goal by the end of this month is to do the exact same thing with, 2 45-pound plates. And now how do I structure my training with recovery days and hard days, and rest days, and, some KPIs along the way to get from here to there? That's how I really like to set my goals personally. It'd be a little harder narrative to tell in a YouTube video and maybe less clickable, but that's really in my life, in my own personal life. And you guys can see, I've got my goal board right here. Nice. That's how I set my goals. I say, here is my benchmark today, and here is where I want to be on this date. Now that the fun part is building the path to get me from here to there. And what day do you think this will air?
Probably in like 2 weeks or so.
Perfect. So go on to my YouTube channel, and about 2 weeks ago, I dropped this tomorrow, is a video outlining my big audacious goal for 2021. 2021. It's to run a sub. So basically, I need to do a 500-pound deadlift and then go straight into a mile sub 5. So I want to do a 500-pound deadlift and a sub 5-minute mile, and maybe even drink a beer all under 5 minutes.
I like you throw a beer in there just for the hell of it.
Yeah, just for the heck of it, right? Can it be done? We'll find out. I'm going to spend the entire year training for this. The problem is I can do a sub 5-minute mile, no problem. My deadlift's only at 330. So I've got to build the mass and strength to get to a 500-pound deadlift, another 170 pounds of weight to get to that deadlift, and still be able to be nimble enough and fast enough to run a sub 5 mile. It's not going to be easy, but that's the goal.
Where did that idea come from?
Ryan Hall, actually. You know Ryan Hall, the marathoner?
Yeah.
Okay.
Turned bodybuilder. He saw it somewhere, and he's like, dude, we have to try this. Because he knows that I can still run a sub 5-minute mile, which he can't. But he can deadlift 500 pounds, which I can't. So we're training together, and maybe later this year we'll attack it together, kind of from two different ends. He's going to have to get his speed back, and I'm going to have to get my strength to the next level, and then we'll see if we can do it.
Have there been any videos that just kind of like you thought you put on the drawing board, you thought we're going to work out, and then just didn't kind of, you want to talk about
I'd show you my board. Actually, probably, the resolution is probably not good enough, but this is my YouTubing board up here.
Okay.
And I got 100 video ideas up there.
Okay.
And some of them are freaking awesome. And I'm like, I look at this one right now and I'm like, that would do probably 3 or 4 million views, easy. But I can't do it because of COVID. Oh. And I look at another one, I'm like, okay, that's just a stupid idea. Like, we should probably just get off the board. But maybe one day I look at it with a different frame of mind and tweak it just enough to be a perfect video. So, when I write these ideas down, and they come to me all hours of the day, when I'm working out, when I'm sleeping, when I'm dreaming, and I just write them down. And a lot of times that's just the creative process for YouTubing is you have to have 1,000,001 ideas. Some can't be done due to monetary constraints today, but maybe 2 years from now, we have the budget to do it. Some can't be done due to time restraints today, but maybe, in a year's time we can do it. And some of them need to be pivoted in order to be the right idea. And because I love meetup videos, at least half of them, I need COVID to go away so I can do these videos. That makes sense.
Has there ever been a challenge where you've looked at afterwards, outside of the 300 push-ups one, that it sounds like that you thought, man, that just sucks. I don't know why I did it, but great, I did it. I don't even know if I'm proud of it that I did it. It's done.
Oh, when you're saying this, I'm like, yep, Big Mac mile, Big Mac mile. So I had this idea to do a mile, just like a beer mile, drink a beer, run a lap, do it 4 times, beer mile. I'm like, how crazy would it be if we did it with Big Macs? And that is crazy. And it's the dumbest idea I ever had for a video. And I talked a couple of my buddies into doing it with me. We ate a Big Mac, ran a lap times 4. I've never been more sick in my life. My stomach hurt. I had a splitting headache. I was not well for about 2 or 3 days. And I remember after the video just laying on the ground screaming, why did we do this? You couldn't pay me enough to do it again.
2 questions. 1, did you like Big Macs before that?
No, I hate McDonald's.
And then 2, obviously you have not had one since.
I haven't had a Big Mac since. I love McDonald's chicken sandwiches. They're little, what do they call them? McChickens.
Okay.
That's kind of a guilty pleasure. I'm not a huge McDonald's fan in general though, so forcing me to eat those Big Macs is just so.
What's your go-to fast food?
In-N-Out if it's around, but it's not everywhere. And then let's see, what else do I like? ChickfilA occasionally. I'll probably say, if I have access to it, if I'm in a town that has it, I'm going to In-N-Out.
Okay. Solid choice.
I like that you're saying, yeah, I'm a 2-time Olympian, probably should have been 3, but also the common guy saying, look, man, it's okay to have a guilty pleasure with the chicken.
I'll say this. Hell yeah, I'll say this right now. I ran professionally for 12 years. I ate fast food not every single week, but at least every month during those 12 years. My favorite post-race meal was a double animal style. I drank. I didn't have dry periods during those 12 years. I drank alcohol every single week for my entire 12-year career. Alcohol's not the problem. Binge drinking's the problem.
Exactly.
Right? Fast food's not the problem. A shitty diet's the problem. So you just have to, again, everything in moderation. And as an elite athlete, there is still room for alcohol and fast food and desserts in moderation.
So one thing that I did notice on your Twitter account when I was looking up stuff for the interview, you posted something right around when lockdown went down. Now it's been almost a year. It'll be a year in March. But you posted this little graphic, and it said that those things, like everything being shut down and us not doing races anymore, those things are out of your control, but there are things you do control, like attitude, how you train, and what you choose to focus on. Why do you think so many people forget that their own life is in their control?
Well, I think we go from this world where we're born and our parents pretty much tell us what to do. Then we go to school where the teachers tell us what to do. And then we go to work where our boss tells us what to do. So pretty much we're trained to be, groomed for this life where we're constantly looking for people to tell us what to do. And so we lose a little bit of this idea that we're on our own path, that we truly choose every single day how we're going to live our lives. And I think that sometimes you just need a slap upside the head that says, yes, there are certain things that are out of our control. But there are 99% of the decisions you make each day, 99% of the time that you have on this earth, you control that. And we forget that so often. And I try to slap people upside the head. I have to do it to myself sometimes and remind us that we control our attitude. We control where we live. We control what we do. We control how we spend our time, who we spend it with. And we are making conscious decisions constantly. Even though we forget that sometimes, we are choosing all of those things. Even if you don't like your choices, you're choosing them. You hate your job.
That's on you, right?
Yeah, you hate your job. Okay, well, you're choosing to be in that job. I'm sorry. I understand you may have mouths to feed. I understand you may have, obligations, student debt. you are still choosing every single day to be in that job that you don't like. Just acknowledge it. Yeah.
I was going to say, speaking of choosing, it kind of segues into the next question about climbing the 7 summits, right?
Yeah.
10 tallest mountains on each continent. You know, that's something that you're choosing to do, and you're kind of making a goal for yourself. A, how's the training going with that? And B, when can we expect to kind of get more info and see when that's going to be done?
So that's a lifetime project. You know, I announced my retirement that I wanted to do this project, which is the 7 summits. And everyone's like, oh, what, you know, when are you climbing Everest? When are you climbing Everest? I'm like, I don't know. Like, it's not that kind of goal. This is a lifetime project. I did climb Karsten's Pyramid in Papua New Guinea, which some regard as the tallest in Oceania. I did climb Kilimanjaro. And actually, if you go to my YouTube channel, I released a documentary on that climb, which, you know, we did a really good job with that documentary. Then COVID hit and slowed me down a little bit. I think the next one on my list would probably be Elbrus in the Urals, in the tallest one in Europe. You know, but I don't really want to travel to Russia right now. It doesn't seem like the place I want to be. There's a couple others that I'd really like to tackle, but the last thing I want is COVID. Maybe the last thing I want is COVID at 20,000 feet. So yes. I'll wait. I'm in no rush on that. And there are 60-year-old, 70-year-old people that have climbed Everest. So I don't feel a huge sense of urgency to tackle those mountains.
I mean, you could always just do the equivalent of just climbing your stairs.
Right? Same thing.
You know, and you're like, dude, I did it. I just did it in a very safe environment.
I think for me, it's the cultural experience. Like, you watch that Kilimanjaro video, and it's not so much about the athletic feat of climbing Kilimanjaro. It's more a showcase of the incredible culture around the mountain. You know, the porters that sing to you as you're hiking, like the meals that you're eating. It's just, I love traveling, and then traveling with, you know, a sense of purpose. Like, I want to climb this mountain in this country. Like, it's just combines two of my favorite things: travel and athletic, you know, challenges. So I really think I'll probably save my next mountain for Elbrus. I want to skin up and ski down it. I think that's the best way to do that one. But again, I'm just not super excited to travel to Russia right now.
So a lot of your day is like basically budgeting your time. I mean, you're part entrepreneur, you run this fitness channel and stuff like that. How many videos do you have going on simultaneously? Like, how many challenges are you doing?
I try not to have like a background video. Like the 30-day push-ups kind of was tough because that was always in the background. So if I wanted to go do a running video, I'm running like this with my arms because they're so dead. So I don't do a lot of like simultaneous videos. There will be some months where I travel. Actually, this is probably the best way to do it if we can. Excuse me, Ryan, my videographer, and I will travel to a destination, and then we'll shoot like 3 or 4 videos at once. So he's got all of those videos in his hard drive, and he can spend the next month editing them. But we do try to drop a video. We have very successfully dropped a video every single week for 2 years now. And that's a streak I don't want to break. So I'm sitting here looking at the board, and I'm like, okay, this is a great idea for a video, but I can't have it too close to this one, or they won't work together, or, you know, they build into each other better if I do it this way. So I've got the next 5 months of videos already lined out on the board. They may move around slightly as things, you know, new information or new opportunities come my way. But for the most part, I have to, in order to get them done, I have to plan them out that far ahead. And then I'm cross-referencing that with my calendar for Run Gum and the obligations I have for that. And I might say, oh crap, I can't shoot that video in Florida because I have to be in California that day. And then I have to move things around. So a good hour or 2 every single day is just juggling the calendar. So you just don't have to figure things out logistically. You have to figure them out physically. Physically, logistically, for me and for Ryan, because he needs to be able to edit all these. Financially, like, again, I have a video or 2 that I'm like, that's $1 million. That might be 10 million views on that video, but it's going to cost 10 grand to make. And I need to find a sponsor for that to be able to get it done. And I don't have time to go chase a sponsor right now because I'm trying to, you know, get this deal done with Walmart for Run Gum. So this will be the year that I really start building out the team. Like right now, we've got about 8 full-time employees and some temps. You know, that may go to 20 this year. And I just need the help on both fronts, right? Both the content creation side and the logistics sales side for Run Gum.
So I may know the answer to this, but I mean, I might be shocked too. Say these 3 different periods in your life, right? You've gone from the running and the Olympian to the entrepreneur to also kind of coinciding with that, what you're doing with your YouTube channel. What's been, in your eyes, the most difficult task of the 3? Becoming Olympian, entrepreneur, or doing what you're doing, which is like consistently pumping out solid content for your YouTube channel?
No question about it, the entrepreneur, because I'll put it this way, that'll make a lot of sense. When I started running, and especially in college and as a pro, I was giddy because I'm like, you mean to tell me that someone is going to pay me to do something that I would do absolutely free, right? Let's say I never got that Nike deal. Let's say I never got the Brooks deal, and I had to, I had to run for free. I'd have done it. I mean, maybe not all the way to 33, but certainly to 28 or 29. I would have done it absolutely free just to see how good I could get. And then I started working. Like, I worked a 9 to 5 as an entrepreneur. And even though I was working for myself, which is the best form of work, it was still work. And I'm like, there's absolutely no way I would deal with all of these, fires and shit sandwiches if I wasn't getting paid for it. And I thought, is this the rest of my life? Am I always going to be just the 9 to 5 guy? And there's nothing wrong with that. And I was still grateful for the opportunity to work for myself and get a salary. I'm like, is this it's hard to go from working in that giddy, I would do this for free phase to working just to get a paycheck. And then I found YouTube, and YouTube pays really well, but I pinch myself every day. I'm almost scared that it's going to end. I'm like, you mean to tell me that I can get paid to make silly videos that I just would do for free? If YouTube ad revenue went to 0, if all product sponsorship went to 0, if I made $0 YouTubing, I would still make a video every single week. I'm infatuated with the platform. I love YouTube. I love the community. And I just feel like lightning has struck twice here, that I get to do something that I would do absolutely for free and get paid really well to do it.
So what would, if 37-year-old Nick could go back to 21-year-old Nick and be like, so dude, when this is over, you're going to run on YouTube and make money. Would he be like, what are you talking about?
I'd be like, well, I don't think, first of all, I don't think YouTube existed back then. But if it's so funny because I get this a lot from kids right now. They're like, did you make more money as a pro runner, or did you make more running as a YouTuber? And it's you can't compare the two, because at the very peak of my athletic career, of course, I made more because I had been building up this name and all these sponsors. And so I'm not quite there yet. Actually, this year I may eclipse my best year of running with YouTubing. But I'll tell you what, it's my first year YouTubing, I made 5-6 times what I made my first year running, and the fact that just 2 or 3 years in, I'm already looking to make more than my best year running. That's crazy. I make more in one video getting my ass kicked by a bunch of 14-year-olds at my local track than I made flying to Europe racing in front of 1 million people, or not million, but well, actually, if you add the TV rights, probably 1 million people, right? Like, it's just frustrating that pro runners make such little amount of money and that there aren't more eyeballs there.
So how does that make you feel as your sport? Kids are like, tell me how much money I'm going to make after, and not tell me how to become an Olympian.
Well, I guess I would say, what's your goal? I mean, like, if your goal is to become an Olympian, then I'd say that's a phenomenal goal. It was a goal I once had. You need to take money and just throw it right out the door. It is not important. The only thing that's important from a money standpoint is how you're going to pay for all your training, your coaching, your travel, your gear. You need enough money to do that, which comes out to about $50,000 a year. But that's not that hard to come up with, right? You can get a sponsor. That's not too hard to find $50,000 a year that'll sponsor you if you're good enough. So if your goal is to be an Olympian, phenomenal goal. Do not ask me how much you're going to make. It is irrelevant. That is not your goal. Your goal is to become an Olympian. If someone says my goal is to become rich and I want to do it via pro running, I'll be like, that is not the way to do it, my man, or my lady, because it just doesn't happen unless you're Allison Felix or Usain Bolt. Even me, I ran professionally for 12 years. I was ranked number 2 in the world for a while. I was ranked number 1 in the US for I think 5 or 6 years. And I was making good money, but certainly not stupid money, not like I'm going to be wealthy for the rest of my life off this kind of money.
Do you think that stunts a little bit the growth in runners young? Because a lot of times, you might have been the exception, starting at a younger age to run. But a lot of us, and you even mentioned playing other sports, like I got into running because when I went to college, I thought I played soccer, basketball, and baseball growing up. I need something else that, was easy to do on my own time. I'll hop on a treadmill, and that's how I got into it. A lot of people just kind of pick up on it later in life. So do you think that if kids were to look at you and say, well, I want to be a runner, a pro runner, and make the Olympics, but then they hear like what you're talking about, well, you can't really make a solid living off of it. And it is very difficult to make, to become an Olympian in that sport. If they're like, well, then I'm not going to do it. I'm going to focus on maybe becoming a baseball player, get a scholarship and get drafted, or a basketball player, soccer, whatever. Do you think that type of mentality is hurting younger runners getting into it?
No, I think that when you're young, you're naive, right? And it's bliss. Ignorance is bliss. You don't know these things, right? You think, and I thought so too. I was like, I'm going to run and maybe I'll get a college contract, a scholarship, and maybe one day I'll go on and run pro. And so you're so young and you're so naive. Those things really don't figure into your analysis of what the plan is. Now, I will say when you're 22 or 23 and you're out of college and you don't have that support system and you do have to be in the real world and pay your bills, that's when a lot of people throw in the towel. And they say, I'm not making enough money to make ends meet. I'm going to quit and go join corporate America. And it's a shame because so many runners peak later on in their 20s or even their 30s. In fact, I didn't peak until I was 28 in the 28 or 29 for the 8 and the 15. Those were my peak running years. So if I had a bad couple years at 22 or 23, I'd have thrown in the towel because I'm like, look, I'm not making enough money to make the ends meet. And so many talented young runners do that. So I would say that, yeah, you need to have a financial incentive for those youngsters to be able to reach their true potential. And that's where, shoe companies historically have stepped up and supported and propped up the sport that way. Right now, they're not, right? They're not seeing any ROI because of COVID. And if you think the governing bodies are going to pump enough money into the sport to allow them to continue, you're mistaken, because they're going to keep all the money for themselves. So I'm really scared for pro running. I think it was struggling pre-pandemic, and I think that the pandemic may be the straw that pretty much cripples the entire industry.
Damn.
It's sad because I just look and I'm like, how was I so lucky that I didn't have to deal with this during my career? But I saw a very lucrative environment when I was 22 and 23. I could run off and make 1,000 here or make 2,000 there. There were a lot of sponsors pumping money into the game. By the end of my career in 2017, half or 3/4 of the meets that used to pay out had dried up. Sponsors had disappeared. Shoe companies were paying less. And now post-pandemic, I mean, my heart goes out to all of the young runners that want to become pro, because there's no money. There's $0 available right now.
So maybe asking how you do make money on YouTube is the smart way to go.
Well, why wouldn't you, right? If you have the personality and the grind and the dedication to do a YouTube channel, I'm telling you right now, there is way, way more money in YouTube, an infinite amount of money more in YouTube than there is in pro track and field.
Well, it kind of reminds me of Nick and I talked to, I don't know if you're familiar with Spencer Brown, who runs.
Yeah, of course. Athlete
Brooks.
Special, baby.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's how he was just had his own channel, and Brooks came and found him.
Yeah. Good for him.
Or,
I use this word, self-deprecatingly, but with a little bit of pride. I'm a has-been, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not much of an athlete anymore, and yet Gymshark pays me to wear their stuff. Like I'm not the kind of athlete that you would think to sponsor. I'm just an old has-been, but they pay me, and they pay me way better than Nike paid me when I was ranked number 2 in America. Mm-hmm. So just brands will always go where the eyeballs are. Mm-hmm. And the eyeballs are not on pro track and field right now because you can't even have a race. Mm-hmm. So all the money is going to content creators, but there's nothing saying you can't be both. No one's saying you can't be a pro runner and a content creator at the same time. And the brilliant young entrepreneurs out there, the brilliant young athletes, Spencer Brown's one of them, are going to be both.
All the eyeballs are on you running around chasing go-karts and stuff.
I don't know why they are. I sometimes watch my videos and I'm like, that is the dumbest video, but I'll bet you that gets 500,000 views.
Yeah.
You know? So
Yeah.
I think what really clicked for me was, I never understood. Well, I'm not a big gamer. Like I don't play video games much. I never understood why someone would want to watch. I never understood why someone would play a video game, and I never understood why somebody would want to watch somebody play a video game. But you hear about Twitch, and you hear about streaming, and you hear about the money and the eyeballs that are there, and I'm like, I bet you people would watch me run. Just do my little thing here and film it and put it up. And that was really kind of the inspiration behind my channel. Is do people want to see me go out and race other people? I'm a gamer. My game is running around the track or doing my physical challenges out here.
If you started a Twitch channel where you ran a 4-minute mile, I would watch it for 4 minutes.
Oh, yeah,
There you go. Yeah, and I would love to get into streaming. I haven't figured out what my content would be yet, but I think streaming is really, really cool. And I don't understand it completely, but I didn't understand YouTube 3 years ago either.
There you go. Taught yourself.
There you go. I love it, man. Nick Symmonds, dude, honestly, thank you so much. Can you tell us a little bit more about where everyone can find you, check you out on YouTube, Instagram, all that good stuff?
YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, just at Nick Symmonds, Symmonds with a Y. Run Gum's everywhere at Run Gum. If you want to try it, if you like to buy in store, go to Walmart or Target and you'll find it in the sporting goods section. If you like to buy it online, there's Amazon and rungum.com. Trying to think what else. Like I said, we drop a new YouTube video every single week, so check those out.
I'm looking forward to the deadlift one. Deadlift running.
That, like I said, I think that drops tomorrow or worst case Saturday. But once this episode is airing, it's already on my YouTube channel, so check it out.
It'll already have a couple million views.
Hope so.
I'm looking forward to the smoothie challenge that you have yet to do, where instead of the Big Macs, you just do a smoothie every time.
Milkshake.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
that actually sounds pretty good. Okay, here's another one that I really want to do, but I'm like, I don't know if I can get away with that. I want to do a whiskey 400 where I put a shot of whiskey every 100 meters, and then I run that 400 drinking whiskey because I love whiskey. But I'm like, that's like
gonna come up. That's gonna come
yeah,
up.
but not only that, that's bordering on like sober, full blown blackout in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like I might do it, but not make a YouTube video out of it, just because it sounds fun, but it's probably too dangerous.
That would be the only YouTube video of yours that you have to watch start to finish because you're not gonna remember what happened.
I know. The title of it would be like, the time I got my stomach pumped.
Yeah.
It would have nothing to do with whiskey. It would have nothing to do with running. It would literally just be that into an ambulance.
Yeah, you have to start it with the ambulance at the track.
Exactly.
And then
10
show what
minutes
happened.
earlier.
Yeah.
That's the content the people need, Nick.
Yeah,
I know.
I promise.
And then when it gets like 30 million views, you can tell Mr. Beast to suck it.
No, I would never. He's like, this is the
No, I
funny
like
thing
him.
is like, Mr. Beast is like, I just look up to him so much. I think he's like 20 years old.
Yeah,
So
my
I'm like
kids
this
watch
30
him all the time.
I'm a 37-year-old Olympian, leading this multi-million-dollar business. And I'm like, oh, Mr. Beast, you're so inspirational. I want to be like you so bad. Mr. Beast, if you're listening, I would do anything to collab with you. I will fly out to North Carolina tomorrow. Let's do this.
It's funny, yeah. You're like, I ran in the Beijing Olympics, but I want to meet the guy who put all the Orbeez in his backyard.
He's
and
brilliant.
Well, hopefully your wish comes true.
When you're talking about like the most brilliant people on planet Earth, I'm like, all right, you got Bill Gates, you got Elon Musk, and you got Jimmy Donaldson. Like those are the three right there.
Yeah, he figured it out. He figured out the golden rule. Well, Nick, thanks a lot, man. It was great talking to you.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks, guys.
And that brings another episode of We Run This to a close. Nick and I want to thank everybody for listening. If you love the podcast, please share it with friends or leave a review on iTunes. And remember to follow Nick and I on social media. He's at It's Nick Domingo, and I'm at Chris Illuminati on Twitter. Or follow us both on Instagram at WeRunThis_pod. Until next time, see everybody out there.